Joining me now is Abigail Parker from Swanage. Now, Abby, morning. I've spoken to you before about the £20 cut in universal credit. All the front page is dominated by stories relating to this at the moment. How are you feeling about what you're hearing and absorbing about price rising?
Well, I'm thinking that I'm in the middle of a Monty Python script, to be honest, because what's going on is farcical, and it's it's year on year. They're doing these increases and these raises in monies that we have to pay. It seems like they're strip mining the public assets at the moment, and obviously it's going to affect those who are struggling the most. Do you,
a bit like a wave coming towards you, is that how you see it? That you're sat there thinking, OK, I'm coping at the moment, but then with these rises in energy, do you think to yourself, how am I going to pay? Or do you think I've got to live one day at a time? How do you process it?
Well, I think most people who've been affected by the lockdown have been struggling anyway for the last couple of years, and you have just been making do. With this incredible increase that they're bringing, that it's kind of game over, really. If you're doubling the amount you're paying for gas, I've worked it out, there's basically no money left for food from April. You can pay your gas, your electric, your council tax and your water, and that's it. You're done. So if we're in a situation where our government is creating that scenario, there's something very, very wrong. And I think the public have to ask themselves, how much of this are we going to allow to continue? Because surely enough is enough now.
The Chancellor looking at several things, looking at council tax reduction there, looking at what's being seen as a loan with regards to energy. Will any of those help you?
Well, not really, because the so-called, measures are taken to assist us is, as you've just said, a loan. So they're now taking our money that we've paid into the system and giving it back to us and saying it's a loan that has to be paid back. So that's double dipping. That's some seriously corrupt doings going on. And if people put up with this, then, that's a very sad state of affairs. It really is.
There may be some people going, the only money the government has is taxpayer money. The government doesn't have any of its own money. It only has money that it collects from taxpayers, and it just divides the cake up in a different way. When you see the story about Shell announcing record £20 billion profit, and I appreciate that number's more than I can certainly comprehend, do you think, oh yeah, that should be taxed? Or are you too much in the moment to think, do you know what, I can't do anything about that. That's down to the Chancellor in the City of London. Or do you look at it and think, oh, the world's gone slightly mad?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're living in quite an insane scenario, and this is not a new situation. It's gone on year in, year out. They always put the prices up. The government, who's supposed to protect the people, backs that up and does the opposite of what their role is. So they're actually penalising the very people that support the system. So there's question marks to be asked there, isn't there?
Abigail, thank you for your time this morning. Hope you have a good weekend. Abigail's from Swanage. I spoke to Abigail quite a while ago about the £20 cut in universal credit that impacted her, and she wanted to talk about that. Your thoughts as you see the headlines on your phones and in the newspapers this morning? Any worries that you may have? Any thoughts as you listen to these stories and elements you think, actually, we should be talking a little bit more about this? Do get in touch with the show. The free phone number is there, and the WhatsApp 08000 321 333.
BBC Radio Solent.
Thank you, Charlotte. We need to save all the money we can at the moment, don't we? Because of the, various costs of living increase that are going on. Yesterday we heard the energy price cap going up by an average of about £700 per household. And then we heard the Chancellor Rishi Sunak pledging to help those households with between £200 and £350 worth of help in kind. Let's just explain what's been going on. Helen Head, our reporter, has some more details.
If you're finding it difficult to pay your energy bills at the moment, your energy supplier won't disconnect your gas or electricity if you miss a payment. If you've got a prepayment meter and you don't top it up, your energy supply might still stop. If you're struggling to afford your gas and electricity bills, contact your supplier to discuss ways to pay what you owe. Your supplier has to help you come to a solution. They must take into account how much you can afford to pay and how much energy you'll use in the future. You might be able to repay your debt directly from your benefits through the Fuel Direct scheme. Contact the Job Centre to find out if you're eligible. You might also be able to get a grant from a charitable trust to help pay off your debts. Let's Talk has more information on available grants and how to apply. If you can't come to an agreement with your supplier about repaying your debt, or you're not happy with the option they've given you, contact the Citizens Advice Consumer Helpline for advice.
That's Helen Heads. Tristan Pascoe's our political reporter, and he's on with us. Tristan, so we got this Ofgem price cap announcement yesterday, and then straight afterwards, and at tea time yesterday, Chancellor Rishi Sunak outlining various bits of financial help that will be available to most people.
Well, this is going to affect 22 million households, Steve, in England, Scotland and Wales. For customers on a prepayment meters, the increase is actually a little further than £708. In response, the government has announced all households in Britain will get a £200 back or a reduction in their energy bills from October, and there'll also be a council tax rebate of £150 for homes in bands A to D. But there's been some kickback, not least from Labour, Lib Dems, the Green Party. All propose a big windfall tax on the big energy providers. On the day, by the way, that Shell announced yesterday profits of £20 billion. There's criticism that the £200 back is actually a loan and will be paid back by customers in future bills when energy prices have come down. But the Chief Exec of Ofgem, Jonathan Brearley, said yesterday there are no signs that prices could come down soon. Dale Vince from the green energy provider Ecotricity said the government's approach was foolish. And Peter Smith from the charity National Energy Action doesn't think the measures are sensible.
The assistance through council tax is a strange mechanism to use if you're trying to reduce energy bills. People that need that protection the most are likely to be exempted from council tax. The government really haven't delivered on what they've said that their focus is, which is to provide the most support for the most vulnerable people.
Peter Smith from National Energy Action there. Well, let's talk to Abigail Parker from Swanage. We spoke to Abby last year about the impact of the removal of the £20 uplift in universal credit. Abby, morning.
Good day to you, Steve.
Nice to have you there. What do you think about the situation with energy prices?
I think it's a big giant farce, and to be bringing this out after the 2 years we've all been through is really a slap in the face to the general public, I think. It's quite an insult, and it's not something that can be worked out. The math doesn't work on this, especially if you're on a prepay meter. It's more than double. So if you were already barely existing, now there's no chance of existing at all. That's the end result for a certain proportion of the population anyway. Can
I pry into your current situation? Like I say, when we spoke, you're on universal credit. Do you have a sense of when the energy prices go up in April, what that's going to mean in your current situation?
Yeah, I mean, I've done some basic workings out, and essentially with the money that I get for the entire year, 80%, 85% of that is now bills purely. So there's basically nothing left for food. So it's a bit of a DEFCON 5 situation for those who are already struggling for whatever reason, whether it's through injury, trauma or illness. It's game over for a lot of people.
Yeah. There is this various bits of help out there, as Helen Head was just explaining for us, and these sort of discounts from the Chancellor and the government. But I mean, effectively, for an average household, if you do access those £350 worth of savings, you're still going to be £350 down over the course of a year on your energy bills. And that's for an average household, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, that's quite ironic that he's saying it's a help package, because basically he's just taken the money that we've given him and given it back to us under a help package, but telling us we have to pay it back. So it's a loan. So we are now loaning money off ourselves. That's ridiculous. And really, we do need a lot of help in the local areas, and that's the good thing of my situation. I talked about the leaflet last year. We have produced that is being distributed in Swanage at the moment, and that's a directory of all the areas and all the companies you can call to get help and advice, from mental health down to your energy bills. So I'd encourage people to get hold of that if they can.
Really good to talk to you again, Abigail Parker from Swanage there. I wonder what your thoughts are on these increased energy bills. You can always share those with us. You can give us a call for free in Dorchester, 0808 100 3700, or text 81333 and start your message with the word Dorset.
Now, Chancellor Rishi Sunak has pledged to help millions of households struggling with rising energy costs. It's after the energy watchdog Ofcom announced that the cap on bills would be raised, meaning significant increases in energy costs. Helen Head has looked at what help is available if you're struggling or starting to worry about it right now as cost of living crisis probably bites in. So do have a listen to this.
If you're finding it difficult to pay your energy bills at the moment, your energy supplier won't disconnect your gas or electricity if you miss a payment. If you've got a prepayment meter and you don't top it up, your energy supply might still stop. If you're struggling to afford your gas and electricity bills, contact your supplier to discuss ways to pay what you owe. Your supplier has to help you come to a solution. They must take into account how much you can afford to pay and how much energy you'll use in the future. You might be able to repay your debt directly from your benefits through the Fuel Direct scheme. Contact the Job Centre to find out if you're eligible. You might also be able to get a grant from a charitable trust to help pay off your debts. Let's Talk has more information on available grants and how to apply. If you can't come to an agreement with your supplier about repaying your debt, or you're not happy with the option they've given you, contact the Citizens Advice Consumer Helpline for advice.
There's a lot happening in the world of living costs at the moment. Our political reporter Tristan Pascoe joins me this morning. Tristan, what was announced yesterday?
Yes, good morning, Alan. Well, the average household energy bill will increase by £693 from April. This was after Ofgem announced the rise in the price cap. They say it's in response to unprecedented increase in global gas prices. The energy price cap affects around 22 million households, so everyone's paying more. But for those customers on prepayment meters, the cap goes up by an average of £708, even more of a rise than everyone else. Now, in response, the government has announced all households in Britain will get a £200 back off their energy bills from October. There'll also be a council tax rebate of £150 for people in the bands A to D. But some kickback to this, Al, not least from Labour, the Lib Dems, the Green Party, all have proposed a windfall tax on the big energy providers on the day, by the way, that Shell announced profits of £20 billion. There's criticism that the £200 back is actually a loan and will be paid back by the customers in future bills when energy prices have come down. But the chief executive of Ofgem, Jonathan Brearley, said yesterday there are no signs that prices could come down soon. Dale Vince from green energy provider Ecotricity said the government's approach was foolish. And Peter Smith from the charity National Energy Action doesn't think the measures are sensible.
The assistance through council tax is a strange mechanism to use if you're trying to reduce energy bills. People that need that protection the most are likely to be exempted from council tax. The government really haven't delivered on what they've said that their focus is, which is to provide the most support for the most vulnerable people.